Hello, and you're very welcome to The Contact Book, the show where we look back at the life and times of our guests with a little bit of help from those who know them best. As we navigate the highs and the lows of their lives, we'll have access to their contact book, and we'll be calling up those who lived with them through those experiences. Awkward and endearing in equal measure, the truth behind the tales will be revealed, embellished, and of course shared and enjoyed by all. You're very welcome to The Contact Book. So, when I think of the greatest All Blacks, only one name really comes to mind immediately. Not a McCaw, or not Carter, or not Sonny Bill. No, this fella we're going to speak to is widely regarded as perhaps the greatest All Black of all time. He's the All Blacks All Black in my eyes. He made his debut in 1986, won the first cup for New Zealand, of course, in 87. And, well, the next decade he accumulated 121 caps, 92 in test matches, and he only missed 2 games in 10 years. The result of that, well, he kept the now legendary Lions coach Warren Gatland on the bench, and he never got a New Zealand cap because of this fella. He is, of course, one of rugby's great fellas. He is Sean Fitzpatrick. Fitzy, how are you? Good to speak to you.
How are you, Craig? Good, mate. Very, very good to hear your voice again. And,
can't believe you're
looking forward to this.
I can't believe you're letting us at your phone, mate. That's unbelievable. That's usually tucked inside.
Well, I trust you. You and I have done a few things together, and we toured New Zealand and the Lions, and also what was that? The World Cup, was it? No, that was the Lions. No, it was the World Cup.
World Cup, yeah. I can't remember who won it though.
Yeah, no. But no, it's good to be here, and especially in these times, it's good to have people like you producing such good content.
Well, it's also really everyone's been reflecting during lockdown, and it's given you a chance just to slow down and reflect on your life and your career and everything you've done. And I guess you've probably done a bit of that yourself. You must look back fairly fondly at all you achieved in your life and all you experienced.
It's amazing, really, when I've done a few of these, and you connect with people that you don't regularly connect with. So I've really enjoyed that. The family time that I've had. We've been in the same house out here since March, basically, in lockdown. And it's given a time to reflect, and you watch a lot of old games, and you speak to a lot of people, and we've had a few people pass away during this time, and it's a way to connect with people you don't normally connect with. And sure, I've looked back and having my daughters, and they we watched a few games together that we hadn't watched together before, and I'm very proud of the World Cup, obviously, in 87. 91 was a funny year, and 95 was changed my life forever, I suppose. And then to have such a great year in 96, 97 with my old mate JBH Hart was a sort of a fitting climax to a wonderful career that I never ever dreamt of, really.
I'm glad you mentioned John Hart, because he's the guy who discovered you. So let's delve in to the contacts on your phone fairly quickly. Why don't we give John Hart a buzz? He found you, didn't you? Let's dial him up there. Let's dial up John Hart, and he's in New Zealand at the moment. Is he still in Auckland?
He's in Auckland, yeah. He's probably playing golf, is he? What's the time now? It's 8:30 or 7:30 there. Yeah, probably a bit early for a tea time.
Okay, well, let's find. Will he answer? That's the first question. Of course, John Hart.
It's my phone or your phone.
John Hart.
John, how you doing? It's Craig Doyle here. I'm with your old pal Sean Fitzpatrick on the Contact Book. How are you?
I'm well. How are you, boys?
Good, Harty. Thank you for taking the call.
Lovely to hear your eloquent tones.
Well, I thought you might be out at Muriwai.
I'm heading there soon. I'm heading there shortly. Yeah.
We should explain you're allowed to live a charmed life now, John, because you're such a successful coach in your career, and you obviously coached the All Blacks. We'll talk about that in a moment. But you were coaching at Auckland when you spotted a young Sean Fitzpatrick. What was he like when you spotted him back then? How old was he?
He was a pimply face, carpenter's apprentice, I think, and quite arrogant and very confident. But
tell him what you think, Hardy. Speak openly.
Hey, John, I can confirm the pimples have gone.
He was a excellent young man, I got to say, and took him a little while to find his way in rugby. I think the first time we really got together, Fitzy, was when you came on our European tour in '84.
Yeah, the Barbarians. 83, '84. Yeah. That was the Auckland one. Yeah. I was. Everything that Hardy said there. I don't know about being a pimply face kid, but I must say that I was playing for university, and I got taught some bad habits, I suppose, Hardy, by our great mate John McDermott and Grant Dixon and Bryce Bevan, Matafa Keenan, and all those. John and Drakey, who got me to university. But it was a time, I suppose, Craig, where I had natural ability, but I didn't realise that natural ability really, and Harty was the one that sort of got the best out of me. And I always say that, Harty, to you, that you pressed my buttons. It was tough love between you and Andy, our old mate Andy Hayden. There was a lot of tough love that ultimately was a blessing in disguise going forward.
I think Fitzy's admitting to being an absolute nightmare when he first met you, John. Is that what he's admitting to?
I think it's fair, but I mean, there's a couple of things. I mean, I remember saying to Fitzy, he was in the Auckland squad, and I wasn't playing him. And I sat him down and I said, I'm not going to play you until you can go 3 consecutive games for university and not get penalised for over-vigorous play and go away and learn to throw the ball in. Because I remember we'd had a training run at Auckland, and Fitzy had thrown it in crooked again, and Andy Hayden threw the ball back at him and said, go and learn to throw the ball in. So between us, we actually gave him a message, and he did become probably one of the finest exponents of throwing the ball. I'm not going to say, Craig, we ever quite got on top of the over-vigorous play. I'm not sure that
it's kind of amazing. I think you're 21 years old. That was 1984. To think 3 years later, you're playing in a Rugby World Cup final. Just give us an idea, both of you, the state of, because we look at the All Blacks now and it's this amazing sporting brand and it's all kind of very slick, and we look at the documentaries and the jersey sales and all that. But pre-World Cup, pre-87, it was a very different story. What were they like, guys?
And 86 was a very disruptive year in New Zealand rugby. The Cavaliers, led by our very good friend Andy Hayden, took off on an unofficial tour to South Africa. Rugby was very split. If you remember, coming into 87 World Cup, a lot of the nations actually weren't certain about the World Cup and how it would work, and New Zealand really was going through some difficult times, but ironically it was the World Cup that united New Zealand again in rugby, and it was a fantastic event, and Fitzy, remarkably, he got his break there because Andy Dalton had been appointed captain and obviously was a hooker, and he blew his hamstring trying to beat Fitzy in a run. I think Fitzy was probably pushing him to the limit, and Fitzy became a very integral and dominant part of what became was an outstanding side in 87.
I think back, Hardy, and I think we assembled on the Wednesday before the first game against Italy on the following Saturday, and we didn't really know what to expect, Craig, and I think it was the first time New Zealand rugby we had Brian Lahore as the head coach, I suppose, Hardy. Then we had the 2 best coaches in provincial rugby in New Zealand, which hadn't been done before. We had Grizz Wiley and we had Hardy, who were the 2 most successful coaches of that time. So we were sort of maybe ahead of our time, where you coached the backs, Hardy, and I think Grizz coached the forwards.
If anyone's unsure about how unprofessional, how amateur the game was back then, there's a lovely story about the Irish rugby team when they played Wales in their first game in the 87 World Cup, and it came to the national anthems, and they forgot to bring the Irish national anthem, and one of the lads went to his bag and all he had was a tape of the Rose of Tralee. And while Wales were crying their eyes out to their anthem, the Irish were around the huddle just looking at each other going, that's the Rose of Tralee we're playing there. I mean, it was just a different time for rugby, wasn't it, guys?
Yeah, and the World Cup really did light up the game, and it was a very special time in New Zealand. And I can remember that when going to their first game against Italy, and I think the stadium had about 20,000 people in it, and it's a 45,000 stadium, so it hadn't caught on. The final about 6 weeks later against France, absolutely packed, and I can remember going to the ground and people all along the walkways cheering the bus as it went past. It was a remarkable turnaround for the game and very important for the game.
Fitzy, was that the moment you think the All Blacks started becoming the All Blacks that we know now, do you think?
Definitely that team. We had an amazing sort of 2 or 3 years after the World Cup. But Michael Jones made his debut. JK was on fire. And from where, as Hardy said, from where we were in 86, I remember coming back, Hardy, from that Canterbury game when the Cavaliers left us in Canterbury, and we had to come back and face the music at Auckland Airport, and then going on the tour at the end of the year to France. And a lot of that great All Black team sort of through the early 80s, that was their sort of swan song, really. Kirky, David Kirk, no one really speaks of Kirky in terms of what he did in 86. He led the Baby Blacks and then had a very difficult time during that, Bledisloe Cup series in 86. And then ultimately, he was the captain that led the All Blacks to the World Cup final. But in saying that, Andy Dalton, and I always say this, as a young hooker, Andy Dalton could not have done more for me in terms of the way he supported me, which was a real show of his character.
I think it's fascinating. You won the World Cup in 87 on the Saturday. Tell me what you did on the Monday, Fitzy.
I think. Well, I didn't go back to the building site. I'll have to be honest.
The legend.
I think I got.
He was the only one that didn't, Craig. They all went back to work on Monday.
Most of them went back to work on Monday, but my old mate Drakey, I think took me out for lunch on Monday. And he was working for HSBC, and I think Drakey and I and probably Steve McDowell when they had lunch. But I was back to the building site on Tuesday, Craig.
Well, we'll give you a day on that. And Harty, I want to get your thoughts on this, because we found out recently that after that World Cup, Fitzy became, as described by kind of Laurie Mains, as the New Zealand coach at the time, he became a bit fat and lazy. Fat and lazy Fitzy, apparently, is what the papers say.
I like telling that story, Hardy, because it was bloody true. Actually,
what happened?
That I think a lot of us took our position for granted, and we didn't have a great result in '91, and we had to go away and learn how to be good All Blacks again. And ultimately, I think of our time together in 96, 97, Hardy. If I'd thought that in 91 that we'd actually get to where we got to in 96 as a team, it was pretty special. And I'm fortunate that I was given the opportunity, where a lot of those All Blacks for 91 didn't get the same opportunity that I did.
Laurie probably did you quite a service there, really, in terms of bringing you back to reality. I'm not sure you were fat.
It's a bit of a tough. It was a bloody tough phone call, I must say. Then, ironically, so after the World Cup in '91, Laurie rings me, tells me I'm fat and lazy, I'm slow, I'm arrogant, lost the respect for the jersey. And then in '96, I'm building a house, and with that, in January of '96, not knowing whether I'd want to continue playing rugby or not. With that, as I'm up on the roof, bloody Harty turns up at the house, the new All Black coach in '96 turns up. I want to have a chat with you, Fitzy. Now, do you want to be an All Black again? And I'm thinking, here we go again. But it was a different conversation, which I'm pleased to say.
I remember that discussion. You were thinking about giving it away.
I was.
And you didn't know where you were. And after the '95 World Cup loss and, that heart-wrenching loss in South Africa. But anyhow, thankfully, you did.
Turned out well.
You did agree to stay on, and it turned out fantastically, 96, 97.
Yeah, it did. Well, 97 until you dropped me. Until you told me I had to retire. Hardy, I don't want to retire. No, you need to retire.
You couldn't walk or run.
Harty, it's so nice to hear from you. Thank you so much. Really good to talk to you. And I can confirm the pimples are gone and he's working on the rest.
Nice to talk to you guys.
Take care,
nice
John.
Thanks, Hardy.
Bye.
Thanks, Hardy.
Oh, it's lovely to hear from all these guys, Fitzy, without the pressure of actually games and them not coaching. The reflection's lovely, isn't it?
It's nice, isn't it? And there's a lot of things have happened, and as I said, he was the man that sort of pressed the right buttons.
Now I've pressed the right button there. I wanted to surprise you with this one because I think JK's on the line. John Kerwin, how are you?
No.
Well, Fitzy. Don't get Fitzy to press any buttons with those fingers, I'm telling you.
Oh, God, I thought I deleted JK out of my book.
John, I didn't want to tell him we had you on the line, just in case he got a bit worried. Of course, you were with him in that World Cup in '87, and you played with him for so many years, John. I mean, still, can I just sing your praises, John, for a moment? Because people talk about the late and the brilliant Jonah Lomu, but you played the same number of matches as him, but you only scored 2 less tries because you're a prolific try scorer yourself, and I think you changed a lot of the way the game was played as well. And you're the only one I know that looked good in the Italian kit when you're the Italian coach as well. So good to have you with us today. What was he like back then, JK? What was Fitzy like?
I only got dropped, mate, because Fitzy was bloody living out on my wing.
Was he stealing your tries?
Well, that's what I'm saying. If I hadn't been there,
Oh,
JK,
mate.
you would have smashed Jonah Lomu's record.
Exactly. No, I think, I think there's a couple of things that were really, really important for me, and that was Fitzy became captain, and that I was the happiest man that day because that meant that I didn't have to room with him anymore because the captain gets his own room. So it's so ecstatic, I tell you. On a serious note, I think we were talking about how you judge greats and what the criteria is. And I think that really it's people who come along and change the game. And I think, we all look at Dan Coles and the way he's playing now, but it was really Fitzy that changed the game. Him and I joke about it now, but he was probably one of the ever first type forwards that would range out wide. And I think from a personal point of view, worst roommate in the world, but one of those strong friendships. We probably don't see each other enough as we used to, but, we bonded as mates, and probably in the under-21s back then when we both didn't think we were going to make it because I was a skinny white kid and he was a fat white kid.
You see, you can see why I've got a complex, Craig, about being this fat little kid.
I thought he always wore black at JK because he was a big Kiwi fan. I didn't realise it was to make him look slimmer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Have you seen his hands and fingers? Oh, I tell you what.
Just 10 sausages. That's all you see.
Anyway, thanks, JK. It's been great having you.
Actually, while I have you, lads, we'd be remiss of me not to talk about Jonah Lomu because Fitzy, he was your captain, and JK, you knew him well, and the man was unbelievable. What were your memories of him, guys?
I didn't room with forwards after Fitzy because I was traumatised, so told the manager no more forwards. And I'm lying in bed, and back then, we used to stay in motels and hotels, not 5-star hotels. And this guy walks in and he's massive. And I said, mate, Buffhead's down the hall. I don't room with forwards. And he goes, oh, no, mate. He said, oh, nah, bro. I didn't know what bro was back then because we used to use mate. And he said, oh, nah, bro, I've been told to come to your room. So we go outside. And back then, you remember this, Fitzy, Laurie Mains was bringing in testing. We went out and he won the 60 metres, the 80 metres, and we're walking back. And the Buffheads back then used to have a jumping test. So they had those old basketball things, And I'm walking back and this guy says to me, bro, what's that? And I said, oh, that's the Buffheads jumping test. Ian Jones and, Robin Brooke, they jump and see how high they get. And then 9 and 10 was left. They hadn't got the 9 and 10. And he jumped and got the 9 and 10, And then we go back into my room and I don't know, who the hell is this guy, And anyway, he takes off his shirt and my turtle had rolled over. And his was just like snap. And I said, bro, what do you weigh? And he goes, 118 kilos. I said, oh, shit, mate, what's your name? And he said, Jonah Lomu. And I said, time to retire, mate, time to retire,
He was an amazing person, really, really shy, but just a colossus. And we'd never really seen anything like that, JK, had we? And and you talk about him doing the jump test. He had to do the strength test with the forwards, and he was the strongest forward because we had to. I can always remember we used to warm up at 100 kilos, bench pressing 100 kilos, and we'd do 20 of those. And if you got to 20, that was good. He was doing 25, 30, and like, you've got to be joking. A hugely humble man. Expressed himself on the field. Such a sad loss to the whole game.
Yeah,
But
he really was.
and I always say this, JK, what you did in the early years of when you were 18, 19 was phenomenal. But Jonah Lomu in '95 was a global superstar. He will only be the only global superstar that rugby union has. I just don't think anyone could do what he did.
That was so true. And I think that I was talking about it the other day. We don't have a global superstar, and we probably haven't had one since him, and we need one. Like when you think about football, you think about Ronaldo or Messi. And Lomu was that. I always remember Fitzy seeing a photo of Robin Williams on Jonah's shoulders, and I'm thinking, this is exactly what the game needs. The hardest thing for me as an elder, it was very difficult seeing such a shy boy from South Auckland where I grew up, having to deal with a lot of the fame and not really being prepared for it in the early stages. And it was just hard. And then I met him a few years later, and he'd matured and changed. And, it was a really tough time for him, which people probably don't see. But he handled it incredibly well, you know, considering what he had achieved and what he was doing. And then back in those days, it wasn't very PC. Like, you know, I remember walking off the field with my mate Fitzy there one day, and he said to me, "Yeah, are you trained like shit today, JK?" And I said, "Shut up, you fat shit," you know. But later I thought about it, and he was right, you know, because there was no PC back then. You know, we'd talk to each other like that. It was completely wrong. We can laugh about it now. But, you know, back in those days, there was no filters. And Jonah in the early stages had, you know, sort of liver problems, but people put it down to laziness, you know. So there was it was a pretty tough environment at times, Fitzy? A lot of those things are wrong now, and we can laugh about them. But we laugh about them and talk about them because we want them to change, you know, shaming people out. But that was just the era we lived in, you know. And I think that the hardest thing for him was transitioning into fame, but then also the beginning of his illness, which a lot of people put down to laziness.
I can confirm, though, that the fat shit is still Fitzy's nickname. We just don't say it to his face. Before you go, JK, just a quick word on Fitzy and his career and his place in not just New Zealand rugby, but world rugby.
I think one of the greatest, you know, changed the game from a positional point of view, you know, range out wide, had ball skills. I think the greatest thing he did was his captaincy role. A lot of people talk about how, you know, you've got to have a group of leaders and, you know, have 5 or 6 guys that consult. Well, Fitzy did that from day one.
Yeah, JK, just before you go on, JK, in 1992, Craig, I didn't want to be the All Black captain. There was literally no one else. We had a dictator as a coach, and Laurie was, and that's what we needed actually, was a dictator. And I was so lucky to have you, JK, and Foxy, literally.
Great Grand Fox,
Yeah, I had the two of you, just because I didn't know what I was doing, literally. I used to say to JK, please tell me if I'm saying too much, if I'm saying too little. Those days in 92, JK, were really changing times in New Zealand rugby.
But I think, Fitzy, in all seriousness, when people are made leaders at a young age, and what people don't understand, or they possibly do understand, but in prominence in New Zealand, you go the Prime Minister, the All Black coach and All Black captain, right? That's how much. But I think your intuition led you to reach out and ask us. And I was always very honoured that you asked, right? But see, for me, that is natural leadership coming out. And while you might look back on it now and go, I needed the help, you understood what you needed to do to lead. And those were incredible changing times. Like I said, we're doing fitness tests. I mean, this is what we're talking about. Like in 1986, I was rooming with Mark Shaw and we were studying the game and he said, JK, go down and get me some ice. And I thought I was injured. So I went down and got him some ice. And he said, JK, you little shit, that's not enough. Go and get me it. So I went down and I got him like all this ice. And he chucked it in the bath. And I thought, you know, I've heard about these ice baths. But then I went out, got him another bag of ice, came back, and there was 2 dozen Steinlager in the ice bath. You know, it wasn't for him. So, but then, you know, 2 years later, we are doing ice baths and we are doing fitness tests. And, you know, I think 1987 we started doing fitness training, so it was a really progressive time. It was really a big time of change, and you know, you've got to have the ability to continue to change and evolve, and I think that's not easy, especially when you're leading.
JK, it's so good talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Lovely to reminisce with you, and take care of your stuff.
Appreciate it, JK. Thanks, buddy.
Bye. You hit on your captaincy there. Only Kieran Reid and Richie McCaw have captained the All Blacks more than you, and they've played more Test matches. They were as many Test matches when you were starting off. It's a great record to look back on. I mean, it really is. Do you allow yourself that? You know,
and I look back now at the lovely age I am now, as a bit older, and I can reflect on these things. You know, in terms of the 2 periods of my career, the first 6 years and the second 6 years. You know, the first 6 years, we were just young kids, having the time of our lives, good at what we did. But we didn't think too much about it. And being made All Black captain in 92, and after Laurie had told me all those things about being fat, lazy and arrogant and lost the respect of the jersey and all those things, which was bloody hard to take, I must say. But it really reignited my passion for the All Blacks and the jersey. But it also made me look at the game differently in terms of the diverse people we have in the All Blacks, you know, transcending ages, looking at different cultures, studying game plans. But I think most of all, and that's what I love about the All Blacks now, is it made me a better person. Without question, and I'm being totally open here, without question, that responsibility and having to look deeper into the game made me a better person without question. You know, and as the All Blacks say now, good people make great All Blacks. And that's what we're trying to do in our game is create good people, which is really important. And I'm very lucky, as Hardy said. Without Laurie Mains giving me the hard chat, the tough love, I probably wouldn't have gone on and achieved what I did in that second part of my career.
But you'd probably still have your teeth.
That bloody hooker, Steve. You're talking about Steve Smith, aren't you? Don't tell me you got him on the phone.
No, I haven't got him on the phone, but there's a friend.
He is definitely not in my book.
I went cycling with a friend of his who dines out on this story. It's his after dinner story, the big old Ireland and Ulster second row, Paddy Johns, right? And Paddy Johns tells the story about the day Sean Fitzpatrick lost his teeth. But it also just shows how a competitive creature you are. So I tell you what, Paddy has actually sent me the story, and I'm going to get his version of the story, and then we can get yours. So this is the great Irish second row, Paddy Johns, telling the tale of Fitzy's broken teeth. Now I should point out, Paddy is also a dentist, so he's factually on the money. This is Paddy.
I cannot claim to have knocked Sean Fitzpatrick's teeth out, but I was there when it happened. So it was during the 1992 Ireland v New Zealand second test in Wellington. I remember being on my back close to a rock with my arms pinned and looking up at Fitzy on top of me. And I'm about to be punched square in the face for a retaliation. Out of the blue, our hooker Stevie Smith came to my rescue, and he ended up smashing Fitzy in the face and ran on. Fitzy stopped in his tracks, stood up, spat out what I now know were some tooth fragments, and chased after Stevie. So basically, I've been buying Stevie Smith pints ever since. Fitzy, very sorry about the teeth, buddy. That was part of the game. So, yep, sorry about the teeth.
Do you remember it?
I do. I remember I was on top of Paddy, right? And we were miles from anything, right? And we were just sort of scuffling on the ground, and I was actually on top of him. And out of the corner of my eye, I could see Steve Smith sort of running by, and he changed course when he saw that there was an opportunity to smack me. And he went by, smacked me in the mouth, and my bloody, I took my mouth guard out, and then sitting in my mouth guard was half of my two front teeth in my mouth guard. And I saw Smithy running off, and he ran off and it was a scrum. And he's looking back out of the corner of his eye thinking there's no way he can get up from this. And I thought, right, bugger you, mate. And put my mouth guard back in, and I went over to the scrum, and I could see Smithy looking at me thinking, Jesus, what the bloody hell. And we're just about to pack down, and I said to the referee, I said, excuse me, ref, do you mind stopping the game? And he went, yes. I said, I took my mouth guard out of my mouth, and in sitting in the mouth guard was two of my teeth. And I said, do you mind if I call the doctor on to this is an old wives' tale. If you put them in milk in 2 or 3 hours' time when we get the opportunity, we can put them back in. And I could see Steve Smith going, you are joking me. You've got to go off. Get
It's like the Terminator.
But I have had, and Steve Smith, I probably deserved what I got, but we had a beer after the game once I'd come back from having my teeth put back in.
Poor old Paddy as well. Paddy is like 6'8", giant of a fella, but like he's so softly spoken. The thought of you sitting on top and ready to murder him, I don't know. I want to talk about your competitive rightness, and I want to talk to someone who will really know what it's like, okay, who's been there through the hard times, the good times, when you've really had to lead. Not another rugby player though. Oh no, that'll be far too easy. It's time to get one of your daughters on the line. Eva.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Eva's on the line. Eva is on the line, and we're going to give her a call now anyway.
She took a while to discover rugby, which is that's understandable.
Okay, we got Eva on the phone.
Hello?
Hi Eva, it's Craig here. Craig Doyle here.
Hi Craig, how are you?
Good. We're giving you a chance to expose your dad, Sean, who's on the contact booth with us now.
Hi, darling.
Hi, Daddy.
So tell me, what kind of a dad is Sean Fitzpatrick?
Oh, he's the best dad. I mean, he definitely is the most ridiculously competitive person on the planet. Like, I wasn't even alive when he was playing, but I think his desire to win definitely did not stay on the rugby pitch and has continued throughout. Like, I can't think of a single memory in my whole life where I have been allowed to win something, even as like a small child, in anything I did, whether it was playing Nintendo Wii or like kicking a ball around the garden with Dad, or we're very into backgammon now. It's always a very bitter fight to the end. I was actually laughing with my sister about it earlier today. Grace, who is definitely the sporty one out of the two of us, which I've never been allowed to forget, she was telling me how there was one time where Dad and Grace were having a swimming race in the pool, and his intense desire to win ended up with Grace having a broken nose, being whacked in the face by Dad. So I think,
oh wow!
That was not a result of. That was during the race, Eva. That was during the race. Our lanes, we cross lanes, Craig.
I think the older
I can feel Child Services giving me a call shortly.
So in your eyes, Sean Fitzpatrick, because it was in the middle of a race, it's okay.
We crossed lanes.
Yeah.
She swam into my lane.
And no one does that to Sean Fitzpatrick.
No, not even his little girls. I think the older I've gotten, the more I've realised that he is probably like the child in the relationship. He's always now the one that wants to be like people playing with him and like entertaining him.
Yeah, he's not very good at sitting around doing nothing, is he, Eva? He needs to be kept busy.
No! Like all day, every day. I've never seen someone
FOMO.
so insane.
I get a lot of FOMO.
Yeah, a lot of FOMO.
Yeah.
He really is the best dad ever.
Oh, that's great. Okay, I think we should leave it there. That's a nice way to sign off.
More stories about him breaking families' noses, please. Eva, you sound so proud of your dad. It's really lovely to hear a daughter speak so fondly and be so proud of their
No, I am.
It's a
Me
really
and
nice
Grace
thing.
always get taken the mick of for wanting to spend all our time with our parents because we really do have so much fun with them.
Oh, that's a lovely thing.
Thank you, Eva.
Really good talking to you, Eva. Thank you so much for your time. Take care.
Thank you,
So
darling.
nice
All
to
the
talk
best.
to you, Greg.
Bye,
Love you,
darling.
Daddy.
Bye.
Love you too. Bye.
Bye.
I hope my kids say they love me out loud like that in public when they're 22. That's so sweet. Brought them up
Yeah, but
well.
it's nice. Like I never told my father I loved him. That's how stupid it is. I love hearing Eva saying I love you and I love you back.
Why not, Sean? Were you just? Did you feel you were made of tougher stuff back then? Was it just not a thing that you would have said?
No, I just said that was just the way it was. That was just the generation I grew up in, and I was the youngest of 4 children, and I just I don't think we just in those days that just wasn't what we did. And that's why probably now that's what we do all the time. We're always talking about we love you, and it's just a different generation, I suppose. But Dad loved us immensely. He just never said it.
How close was he to Ireland, Sean? Or where did the Irish connection come from?
It was my grandfather, so it was to his father. His father Jimmy came out in 1920. He was the youngest of about 9 children. And they were just outside Tipperary in a place called Clonmore, just outside Thurles, sorry. And he came out here as a 20-year-old and worked on the roads for 2 years for the rite of passage, and never went back. So I must go back to Clonmore. I've had the person that did the parish book there has been in touch with me and told me I have many relatives there, but I've yet to go back, but I must.
You know what they did with Obama? If you're lucky, come back, they might name a petrol station after you. That's what
I like petrol stations. I do like petrol stations. I used to work in them as a kid.
Did you really? You sounded like you were a hard worker as a kid, to be fair, between building sites and, as you said, petrol stations.
We always worked as, in terms of holidays, in our generation, every holiday you were either mowing lawns or working in petrol stations or cleaning cars or, just trying to do anything to raise a bit of money. But it was good. It was all good fun.
Sean, I want to move ahead to 1995, and I know you lost the World Cup, and I know it hurt losing the World Cup in 95 in South Africa, but the significance of that victory for South Africa, with Francois Pienaar, with Nelson Mandela handing over the trophy, the effect that had in South Africa, I guess when you reflect on it now, you're probably more forgiving to yourself, the fact that you lost that game.
Don't tell me you've got Francois, have you? Here's another one I took out of my book.
You won't be surprised to hear Francois Pienaar, who was the captain that memorable day, and of course they made that wonderful movie Evictus about him. Francois is holidaying at the moment. He's at his beach house And
Yes,
he said,
I know that.
And he said to me, Craig, I can only get a signal when I can go up and talk to the cows, which, knowing Frankie, is probably quite often. But he did send a lovely message, Sean, which I'd like to play to you. This is from Francois Pinard a little earlier today.
Hi, Craig and Fitzy. Greetings from beautiful Cape Town. This is Francois speaking. I'm sorry I can't make your podcast. I just want to congratulate Fitzy on a fantastic career. He's one of the fiercest competitors that I have played against. Incredible captain. Our duels started in the first Super 10 rugby tournament in the final when we played against Auckland. And every time we took to the field, it would be a humdinger. Fitzy, you've had an amazing career, an amazing gentleman, and I'm pleased that we became friends after rugby. Because, Craig, I tell you what, on the field, there was no friendship. But luckily afterwards, we have become great friends, and I admire him for what he's done in rugby and what he's done in business and the person that he is. Cheers, guys.
Oh, he's a great
lovely
man, isn't he? Yeah.
Good old Frankie, a good boy. And everything he said there was exactly true. We were the fierce competitors on the field. The last game Frankie played for the Springboks was in Cape Town in '96. Which was the last game of the Tri-Nations, and he got carried off on a stretcher. And unfortunately, he didn't play a game for South Africa. But I loved what he did in '95, the way that his team united the country along with Mandela. And that will always live with me, that moment that Mandela walked down that tunnel. And Frankie and I have spoken about that many times. And as he said, we've become great mates off the field. And being in Japan with him last year and watching that final and him saying that after the result, for him to say this is bigger than what '95 produced, having Sia lifting that trophy. He said, you just wait till they get back to South Africa and what that will do for the country. And it's just amazing how sport has united a country, which is phenomenal.
I'm not sure if the last World Cup victory would have happened if it wasn't for '95, though. '95 was such an important stepping stone and a unifying stone, wasn't it, for South Africa? What was it like to be there and watch that unfold? And I play a part of it.
We came off a pretty tough '94, so we weren't expecting too much. Jonah wasn't going to go to the World Cup because he wasn't fit enough. We didn't know he had a kidney disorder, and then it just unfolded for us, really. We were the fittest we'd ever been. The style of rugby we played, no one else had ever seen that rugby. And it was we just had a brilliant time. We were just based in Johannesburg doing our own thing. Went down to Cape Town and beat the English and came back up. And I always look back at things that we don't do very well at in terms of if we'd done things differently. And without question, we probably shouldn't have been in Johannesburg. We should have moved out to a game reserve or just take ourselves away from the environment and come back on the Thursday or Friday, because it's the intensity, the siege mentality of the South Africans just really got on top of us, I think, without us really knowing it. And then the atmosphere in the stadium was just unbelievable. And that's why, it was one of the greatest days of my life, even though we lost, to be involved in that moment in history and in our game. It was sad that we didn't win, that we lost an opportunity, but it also was an opportunity where you could see it just united a country unbelievably, and that was sport, rugby, that did that.
Of course, Matt Damon played Francois Pinard in the movie Invictus. Who played you?
Jack Nicholson.
I'll give you that one. Your connection with South Africa and the problems and obviously your charitable work in South Africa, I guess stemmed from those days, and most of that now is through the wonderful charity Laureus Sport for Good Foundation. Yeah. Briefly tell us what the charity does, what they're all about.
It's brilliant. It's what sort of motivates me now to. This the only charitable work I do is Laureus, and it was set up by Johan Rupert, who's a South African. And he wanted to celebrate excellence in sport. It's past sporting icons, I suppose, and there's now 71 of us. We started 20 years ago, and we use sport as a mechanism for change. We now support over 200 projects globally. We've raised over 150 million euros, and we support 200 projects in 45 countries globally. So I'm very proud. I'm the chairman of the academy. We've got some amazing people, some of the legends of sport that I'm like a kid in a candy shop. but we all do it for the one reason, that we want to use sport as a way to help change the lives of kids that are, you know, in a bad place or just unprivileged. And sport, as we've seen, and that's why rugby and what we did in Tokyo last year was just an amazing mechanism to unite a nation for one cause. So yeah, we're very proud of what we've done, and long may that continue.
Now I've looked at the former sports people involved, but one name stands out, and this guy, he is just such a legend. It's Daley Thompson. He's got, you know, 2 Olympic golds in decathlon, 1884. World champion, the whole lot. You got his number, right? Please tell me this is the contact book. Can we call Daley Thompson? Because
I would love you to call Taylor, because I'm actually more famous than him. I keep on telling him. Everywhere we go, do you know this guy? Here's Daley Thompson. I'm like, oh, bugger.
Let's give Daley Thompson a buzz. I wanted to speak to Daley Thompson all my life. Okay, please answer, Daley. Please answer. This man, when it comes to athletics, is they'll never have an era of athletics like Daley Thompson's era.
No.
Hello?
You probably have to go through his personal assistant.
Hello, is that Daley?
Hello,
is. Daley, hi, it's Craig Doyle here in the contact book. I've got Sean Fitzpatrick with me, and we're delighted we got through to you. We've just been singing your praises, Daley.
Well, that's because you're good guys, and...
Excuse me, I was not singing your praises. I was telling them about your 1,500 metre time, how average that is.
Well, I'm not even going to go into what you're like when we go into the gym, because that's the kind of gentleman I am.
Daley, do you still go to the gym with Fitzy? Is he still as competitive?
Yeah, we did a session. We did a session. Yeah, we did a session during lockdown.
A couple of weeks ago. Yeah, absolutely. No, he's been great, honestly. For a really old, broken bloke, he is fantastic, Dave.
Daley, I have to ask, watching you when I was a kid, you know, certainly in '84, which I just remember so well, everything about the way you competed and the moustache and, the 1,500 metres, I knew it was absolutely killing you, but you got those gold medals. I mean, we look back at those moments, they come on TV now and again, and I still cry when I see you in action. You must have wonderful memories from those days yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Except, of course, I'm suffering a bit from Alzheimer's. Can't remember a bleeding thing. Barely my name.
Well, you won. You won twice. There you go. How about that?
Yeah. That's fantastic. What? I've been Olympic champion.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I think you're right, Craig. It's nice to have done all that stuff, and it does. It gives me a nice, warm feeling whenever I get to think about it. And, you know, it's led to some brilliant things. And it's one of the reasons I've gotten to spend so much time with Sean, is just because of those wins. I now belong with him with a charity called Laureus. And 8 or 10 times a year, I get to spend time with all my sporting heroes, and Sean is one of those.
It's amazing when you look at the list.
I just make sure we keep that. I'm gonna make sure I have that, so I can play that back to you every time I sort of see you now.
It takes, when you look at the cast list and Laureus Sport, amazing names, so successful, all of you in your own right. To be chairman, to lead such a group of people is a pretty tough job. What is it about Sean that enables him to be that leader?
I think you can only do it through one of two ways. You're either really good at the job or you're really lucky. And I guess Sean's lucky.
Oh, don't you love him?
Do you know,
isn't that beautiful? You would have been a great New Zealander, Daley. You're self-deprecating, take the piss out of everyone. And quite good at what you did.
Oh, top praise indeed from Caesar. Thank you very much. Do you know what, Craig? Sean has really put the wind up everybody, because we were fairly content for the last couple of years as an organisation, and we just kind of were sitting back a little bit, and Sean has really made us think that we can do more and we should do more, and he's really pushing the organisation. And, you know, in the last couple of years, it's been a revelation as to how much energy and time and he's put into the organisation, and it's really benefited from that. And that means that the kids we try and help, they've benefited too. So it has been brilliant.
That's so nice to hear, because it's such a brilliant charity, some of the work it does. We're going to hear about some of it in a moment. Daly, before you go, do you still have the moustache?
Of course I do. It's a little greyer now. Actually, it's a lot greyer now.
Never let it go, my friend. Never let it go.
Thank you,
so
Daly.
nice talking to you.
Lovely, mate. Thank you.
Cheerio.
Cheers,
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
That was Daly Thompson, and he actually said my name. That's my new phone ring right there.
That's mate. I'm like you. I like Daly as we take the mickey out of each other, but he was one of my childhood heroes. What he did in '84 and absolutely amazing. Edwin Moses. He was just unbelievable, and to sit in the same room as them is brilliant.
Sean, I want to stay on the charity note, and I want to finish on a real high. It's about the work that the charity does over in South Africa and the real effect it has on people and how it affects people's lives. So I'm allowed to call in a joker on the contact book, a number that I found myself. And I want to bring her in because she's an incredible person. She's a great story to tell. And she's a friend of yours, a rather new friend of yours, Bongi and Kleko. So Bongi is from Soweto. She loves Sean and she has really benefited from the charity. So let's give Bongi a call now. Over in Soweto. She might be out playing rugby, Sean. You've inspired this woman to play rugby and to keep playing rugby, which is kind of incredible.
She's the most beautiful woman.
Hello?
Hi, hello, Sean.
Hello, Bongi. Wow, this is a real treat. We've had some pretty cool people, but this tops everything, Bongi. Really,
I'm
really
very
cool.
honored and humbled with this call.
Bongi, tell me how you know Sean and how he's helped you in your life.
I met Sean in 2011, if I'm not mistaken, when I was given an opportunity to go and exchange what we do here in Soweto for our community with a school in Millfield. And then I met him at the summit, the Laureus Summit. I was just so touched and motivated by what the Laureus Sports Foundation is doing for community work. And when I had a conversation with him, I was just so moved and motivated by what they are doing and the way they encourage young people to just get out of their comfort zone and do the absolutely best of themselves.
Bongi, tell me what your life was like growing up.
I was born and bred in a township called Meadowlands in Soweto, and I was raised by a single mom with two siblings, and I was the sole earner for the family because my mom had a stroke. Following a difficult childhood that included both hardship and tragedy, rugby has offered me chances and opportunities in life I might have imagined possible. And my life for sports and rugby in particular is a content source of strength for me.
Lots of people have been on saying lovely things about Sean. So it's your chance now, and I'm interested to know how Sean helped change your life and lead you down the path you're on now.
Sean, you're such an amazing person, and looking at you and your rugby career, you have touched our lives, and I don't know how to thank you. I'm in positions right now because of
you don't have to
the
thank
words.
us, Bongi.
The words that you keep manifesting in our lives. So we have to tell you, you have to know that just by the words, you don't even have to, the words that you say within us, it goes a long way. I know my boys right now that went to Hong Kong in 2010, that went, it was their first time in a flight. But now they are sport coaches, they're personal trainers now because of just that small seed that you've planted within them.
That Bongi, that is a great story. And Craig, Bongi is an example of people that have changed our lives. There's 71 Academy members now, and people like Bongi don't realise, and I'm sure you do, Bongi, but you are such an inspiration to us. That is why we do what we do. And you say you're getting emotional, I'm getting emotional just thinking about you. And when I came to Soweto after that trip, the rugby project from Soweto went to Hong Kong, to a project of ours in Hong Kong at the Sevens called Operation Breakthrough. I can still remember the first time that these kids turned up from Soweto with the guys, and with Morne Duplessis was there, and these kids they'd never been outside Soweto, let alone been outside South Africa. They didn't have passports. They had to get passports. And within the space of 4 or 5 days, the kids from Soweto had sort of grown just immensely. They were training with the New Zealand Sevens teams, were training with the South African Sevens team. They were at the stadium, and it changed their lives. And then 6 months later, Bongi, I came back to Soweto, and the difference, as you just said then, the difference in those girls and boys that went to Hong Kong was just phenomenal. And I'm so pleased to hear that they're now turned into trainers, and they are the leaders. And that is purely through sport.
And Bongi, a little birdie tells me that the haka can now be heard through Soweto before rugby.
Bungie and I are pretty good. She's one of my better students.
Tell me more, Bungie. Tell me more.
No, the haka, we've taken the haka to the next level. I don't think even New Zealand can beat our haka right now.
And you now do the haka before your matches, do you?
Yes, we do.
Bungie, it's been lovely talking to you. It really has. Thank you so much for joining us from Soweto. It's really good to speak to you. And
lots
really
of love.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take
Take
care.
care.
Lots of
Bungie.
love to you.
Bye-bye. So we started with the haka back in 87, giving All Blacks Rugby a bit of a reboot. And we finish with the haka in the townships of Soweto, helping people restart their lives. It's kind of gone full circle. Sean, it's been lovely reliving all those great days with you and seeing the work you're doing now. I hope you've enjoyed your contact book experience. I really have. I'm sure the listeners will too. Take care of yourself. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
You've been listening to The Contact Book. The show was produced by Keith Doyle and it's been made by 3 Rock Productions for Audi. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please do subscribe. Lots more great interviews, lots more insight from those who know our guests the best coming your way here on The Contact Book. Until we meet you again and talk to you again, take care and bye-bye.